Now, this is easy to filter with. The bike is so light. Compared to what I get off every day, I get off a GS. So this thing feels super light at 201 kilos. Yeah, I love the engine, and I haven't even really opened it up. Yeah, the gearing is low on this, the first 3 gears, but then as you start going up gears 4, 5, 6, it starts clawing back those ratios. You can see that in the charts between this and, say, the Trident. So initial reactions on the seating position, I like a nice seat to peg distance, and I'm a bit susceptible to bikes making me uncomfortable in that way. This isn't too bad, because although they've raised the rear pegs, they've moved them back a bit, so that tends to open your hips up a bit more. Might not help you too much on the knees if you've got dodgy knees, but what you have got is a reasonable stretch to these bars. They're fairly low. Now, I will say, in relation to myself, I have quite short arms as well. So I'd say to a lot of people, they won't feel the bar riding position won't feel quite as extreme as I find it. Well, I don't find it extreme, but it's reasonably sporty. But the engine is very tractable in those higher gears. So those first 3 gears, yeah, you pick them that straight away. Quite closely spaced ratios. But kind of once you're going through town and slow speed and stuff, there's probably no reason to go into first or second. You just kind of leave it in the third, unless you're stopping, of course. I get the feeling of what some of the journalists are saying about the handling, the steering, but I'm going to forgive the bike that for now, because I'm a heavy rider. I'm 18.5 stone, and I haven't touched the rear preload, and I'm going to muck around and see how much of the suspension travel I'm using before I start adding more preload. I know I'll end up adding more just because I'm heavy. But first impressions of the suspension as well, I think it's great. It's not as firm and kind of outright sporty as you might think it might be. It's not some plush, softy kind of cruiser ride, obviously, but it's kind of firm without being overly firm. Like the country roads I'm on are not being jarred all over the place. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Considering there's no adjustment, and the only thing I've got is that rear preload. But yeah, you can feel that. You can feel that turning. You can. There's something a bit. You might have expected it to be a little bit sharper. I'm not saying you're struggling to do the thing, or even counter steer. But I'll reserve judgment on that part of it for now, because this really is straight off the showroom floor. First kind of 20 or 30 kilometers at the moment. The menu structure I'll go through in another video. It's quite straightforward. Weirdly, not weirdly, it's very similar to a Triumph that Triumph layout that they use on a lot of their TFTs. It's just kind of the way they do it. See, there'll be a bunch of stuff on there that I'll take off to save scrolling round. Like I don't need to know the engine coolant temperature. If there's a problem with it, it'll give me a warning. I don't need to display that, so I'll take that off the information tray and do that for a few things. I'll see what's there first. So I'll put the tyre pressure monitoring on this. That's great. I think it's a great technology. Why wouldn't you have it? Do you know what the refreshing thing about this bike is? Yeah, it's actually got a severe lack of technology, which is great. As I say, I did put the My Triumph app on here, and I'll go through that in another video, see how we can work with that, see if we can get that set up. So first day out, drizzling, bike's going to be filthy, but I don't worry about things like this. Rear brake's just a bit of a rear brake. Yeah, put a bit of pressure on it and it does its job, but nothing spectacular like most rear brakes. Front brakes are great, a lot of feel, a lot of bite, a lot of stopping power. I like them. Yeah, if you want the sit up and beg sort of style, a bit like the Ninja or maybe the Suzuki, this isn't the bike for you. It's a bit more forward than those. I'm finding the stock seat reasonably comfy, but I did get the comfort seat, so we're having a bit of an appraisal on that. I'll just get used to the bike as it comes stock first. Well, we're at 100 kilometers now. The bike is still 100% stock, so still being reasonably gentle with it because it's running in. Yeah, 100 kilometers from new, and it's filthy. Right, the only change I've made, first 50 kilometers, rear preload was where it comes as stock, which is actually on the lowest position. You get, I was a bit skeptical about what some of the journalists were saying about the handling on this bike. I was just wondering whether you had a bit of groupthink going on. But yeah, after riding the bike with the preload in the stock position, this bike has a handling characteristic all of its own. I've never experienced something like it, actually. So I can see where they're coming from. So the first thing I did, now granted, I'm a heavy rider, 18.5 stone. So I'm going to lower that rear shock. I'm going to tax that rear shock. So after the first 50 kilometers this morning, I upped the preload, and you get a tool in there. Well, there's no toolkit, you get a preload spanner, and I have 2 more settings. I'm at position 3 from the max preload. That changed that quite a lot. That has that handling much better. But even so, that this bike handles, it has a handling characteristic all of its own, and it's something you need to get used to. Now, what I'm saying is, it's not a scalpel. It's not. You wouldn't describe it as that. It's considered steering. I'm not saying it doesn't steer. I'm not saying it understeers either. I'm just saying it handles differently than a lot of bikes, and you have to get used to it. Now, I have relatively short arms and short legs. I actually find the seating position with the legs, seat to peg and everything like that, not too bad at all, actually. You know, not as acute as I thought it was going to be. Now, the reach and the drop to the bars, though, is quite low. It's definitely on the sporty side. If this is your Kawasaki Ninja 650, and this is your R7, it's definitely down this neck of the woods. There's a fair lean. So if you've got any weakness in your shoulders or your wrists, you probably won't like this model. That's just being honest. And because I own the bike, I can be 100% honest. There's a fair lean to it. Now, in this first 100 kilometers when I'm going through town, I've already kind of adopted a stance of kind of sitting up back a bit with my right hand on the right bar, and kind of just my fingers touching the left grip, just to sit upright a bit more at slow speed around town. But the longer I'm riding the bike, the more, if you like, I'm training my shoulders and wrists to accept that position. And I have to say, it's more comfy on the shoulders and wrists now than it was 100 kilometers ago. And look, if you're a young person, none of this matters. You'll just get on it, it'll be fine. So what I'm saying, if you're an older person, make sure you go for a test ride of this. You might not like how acute the bars are. I think the pegs are good. I think the pegs are good. But you might not like the reach to the bars. Now, I just want to say, I got short arms, so that exacerbates it a bit for me, which makes me lean over a bit further. But as far as back, hips, knees, all that sort of stuff, yeah, fine. Just a bit of reach to the bars. So that's my observation. Engine, it's all about the engine on this bike. It's all about the engine. Front brakes, fantastic, love them to death. Rear brake is kind of a, you know, average rear brake, but combined, the pair together, this stops wonderfully. And look, it's a rainy, drizzly day. I'm out here. When do I never drive a bloody Triumph in the rain? Rainy, drizzly day out here, and these tires are great. This thing's stopping on a sixpence. Now I'm not completely pushing it. I'm still running this bike in, but the feel from the brakes is great. The power from the brakes is brilliant. I love those, so I love the braking side of it. The clutch is very light, lovely. Gear lever just snicks in and out, lovely, love that. Anyway, let's keep going. Nice clutch action, quite progressive, not like a clutch from some of the bigger Triumphs, the Tiger 1200s, which are a bit lastminute.com. Yeah, I like this clutch. It's nice that you can rev this somewhat and you know, make decent progress and all that sort of stuff. But if you're doing the same thing on the S1000XR I was riding the other day, you know, you're off into outer space if you rev it the same. So it's kind of like the thrills of having a revvy bike and revving the bike without getting into too much trouble. Now look, it's still 95 horsepower. You can still break the speed limit everywhere if you wanted to, but that's not the idea, you know. The first 3 gears are low, but it kind of just means that at slower speeds you can sit there in third and leave it in third and don't bother with first and second. You've got to kind of tuck your elbows in a little bit to see through those mirrors fully. They're not bad. They're good on dual carriageways and motorways and stuff. You know, you're getting a good view of, you know, lanes either side of you and stuff like that. But just tuck your arms in a little bit to see through them a bit more behind you. That's all. Yeah, the clutch and the gearbox action is lovely, smooth and zero effort. Look at that, lovely engine, lovely acceleration. I'm still only doing 84 kilometers an hour. If I was doing this road when this thing's running, I probably wouldn't be out third or fourth, and I'd just be right up the rev range, to be perfectly honest. But because it's still running in, we'll help itself along a bit. I'm getting wind on my helmet, of course, but nothing on my chest. So one of the things about bikes like this, and my Daytona 1200's the same, you can do big mileage days compared to, say, your nakeds on bikes like this. Even though their screen's quite small, really, it just takes all that pressure off your chest and you're not hanging on for dear life on the motorways. But the turbulence is far enough away that it's not like bobbling your head around and bashing it like mad. I mean, there is turbulence, obviously a bit of wind noise around your helmet because your helmet's in the air and all that, but a set of earplugs and you wouldn't even notice it. So these bikes are good for distance if you need to do distance. In fact, Tame from it was the All Year Motorcyclist, he said he did a 250 mile day on one of these and he was fine. Now, we did say he didn't want to go any further, but 250 miles is a significant day on a bike like this. Now, he's a big chap, tall-wise, so he'll have longer arms from me, so he probably didn't get it in the neck quite so much as I do. But like Triumph don't do panniers for this bike. They don't intend you to tour on the bike. Like, I can bet your bottom dollar, GV and Motec and that lot, they'll bring out a pannier set for this. It's only a question of bringing out some rails. But it's obvious why Triumph don't. I say, well, listen, if you want to go touring, we've got a Tiger Sport. But there's bound to be the odd person that has this bike and goes, well, I want to go on a couple of longer days. Now fair play to you, you know, I'd rather take the company of bike myself. But I did get the tail pack and the tank bag, and you know, you could get a tent on the back seat. So you can do it if you want to, but I don't think I'd like to go away for more than a couple of days on something like this. It's so much fun to ride though, once you get used to that handling characteristic. And again, I keep wanting to say, it's nothing like weird. Slow down. 5 motorcycles killed in County Wicklow in 2023. Yeah, 5's a big number. Some of the motorcyclists down these Wicklow mountains go a bit daft, and they're following a group, and they feel they have to hang on to their group, and they do some crazy overtaking manoeuvres in the face of oncoming traffic. Crazy. And of course, bikes like this, look, it's only got 95 horsepower compared to my other, well, looks at my other Daytona, it's 147 PS. Is that about 145 brake horsepower? You can overtake in the blink of an eye anything you want. Bikes like this kind of just make you think a little bit more. I know it's still 95 horsepower, but you know, you haven't got that I can overtake anything kind of power. I love that I feel I'm pushing the engine, and I'm okay, it's only at 5,500 revs, but I love that I feel I'm giving the bike a bit of a workout. Again, I know I'm not at the rev range yet, but I feel like I'm giving the bike a bit of a workout, and I'm, you know, I'm riding at decent speeds, but they're kind of safe speeds. It's a wet day, wet roads, and I'm actually in rain mode. Not because I'm trying to bed myself into the bike, because it's raining, and I just want to give myself a little extra traction control, that's all. So again, I don't want to over-egg this handling thing, but yeah, it's definitely different. I think it's a bit like, I think it's something you'll get used to. You just find out the characteristics of a bike. I was probably going to be more critical of it initially, and saying, geez, I don't like this at all. But I'm kind of okay now. Yeah, as I'm in 6 now. I wouldn't normally ride this road in 6. 4th would be the maximum for me, and it gives you maximum control through the bends without having to brake and all sorts of stuff like that. I'm just trying to give the engine a brake while it runs in. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the brakes, like really impressed. It's the front one, it's magnificent. Great feel, and great power. So this is a bit of a rough old road. Dynamically the bike copes with it well. It's great, it's handy enough, its low speed damping's great. Yeah, no bother at all. You're getting a bit of the ripple of the road and stuff like that, but it's not horrendous. You're not getting the judders through the bars. Jesus, that bloody car, he wasn't minded, was he? But it's insulating me well enough. You know, it's short enough suspension travel. I think it's about 110 mil, but the bike lets it use it. The rear end's moving quite nicely, even though I've added a lot of preload. But adding preload doesn't change the spring strength or you know, anything like that. It just brings me further up the stroke, that's all. So with my weight, that's done me a favour. So personally for me, what I have to do is get used to this riding position from a neck and a shoulder perspective, and we're sorted. I know I keep going on about it because it is a feature of the bike, this handling. Look, I'm in some lovely twisty roads here. I'm not putting in hardly any effort, you know, but you have to be conscious about the steering. Now, because the bike's so light, it's easy to do that. I wonder if it was a bit of a supermoto and you had wider bars, you probably wouldn't think about it so much. Or if I wonder, would the next section tyre down on the back negate that as well? At the start I would have said, oh, I don't know about this bike, but no, it wouldn't stop me buying the bike. It's just a different feel to the bike, but it's not a chore by any means. You just have to learn to ride it in a certain way. But I wouldn't leave the rear preload in stock. Any side of the road, mate, any side. Like, these roads are twisted up. It's easy to deal with, you know. I'm not struggling with the handling. You know, let's put it that way. Brakes are fantastic. I know I keep saying it. Brakes are fantastic. If you didn't want a quick shifter, bike's fine without it. The shifts are very light. I knew that hump was there. I lifted off the seat a little bit too late there.